5 men stare at that, staff realize something's off. He pulled the tip of his hat further down, casting a tiny barrier of darkness between him and nearby situation. Every part of him wanted to spring into action, but that was his old life talking. In this new life all he could do was sit there and see what these men were about to do. 74-year-old Lou Zezoff was looking forward to the date night at Cracker Barrel with his wife, Annette. Tonight, he would go wild with a medium-rare steak and loaded potatoes, maybe even a big brownie for dessert. He had no idea what would be waiting for him just a few tables over. A quiet life in Granite City, Illinois was the perfect retirement after a lifetime of dangerous, stressful service jobs. But being a Vietnam veteran had left him in a constant state of vigilance. Being a police officer and detective in the post-war years only added to the hyper-attentiveness. It all started with a glance. Lou wanted nothing more than to admire how nice his wife's hair had turned out for date night or the way she smiled at the service staff. However, a couple tables over, a table full of muscled young men ended up vying for his attention. There was just one problem. Lou wasn't a young man anymore. If there was trouble coming, he wouldn't be able to do much besides dial 911, and he hated that. The group of guys looked like they could snap him, or anyone, in half without blinking an eye. It ended up a battle of side glances and whispers as he tried to order appetizers. It became obvious to him, and quickly to his wife, that they were being watched. They were too young to be someone he had arrested back in the day. Maybe kids of some guys he had put behind the slammer. It didn't take long for the staff to also notice something was off. Something, however, nagged at the back of Lou's brain. It was their hair. By the time his steak arrived steaming and juicy on the table, he had already formed a solid hypothesis. But just when though he could relax, he spotted one of the guys whispering to a waitress while glancing over at Lou. Whatever he said made the waitress's eyes go wide. Annette reached over and patted his hand, trying to calm his hardened reactions to unknown situations. She was curious, but not nearly as fixated as him. Suddenly, one of them stood and walked over. Lou's heart pounded wildly. He was the tallest of the bunch, clean-shaven and a sharp, precise haircut. He walked with authority and determination. Lou also noticed a harsh glint in his eyes. This was a man who had seen and done some horrible things. He knew that look all too well. The man stopped in front of Lou and extended his hand. "I saw your hat, sir. My fellow officers and I just wanted to thank you for your service to this country." The paranoia and wild imagined situations melted away. Lou thought he could relax, but the scene was just starting. The others stood up and came over as well. Lou might have been an old soldier, but he could still blush. They all thanked him over and over for his years in military. They shared a few brief stories of their own service and struggles. Then they handed him the dinner bill. It had been paid for. Lou felt the tears well up and trickle down his cheeks. He knew better than most that Solider didn't get paid much. This was a lot for the boys to give out. He tried to insist they didn't have to, but their response made him cry harder. The 5 men stood in a line and gave him the sharpest, crispest salute he had ever seen in his life. The rest of the restaurant had been watching the scene unfold and then joined in. They clapped, cheers, and thanked him as well. It felt like his heart was going to explode. Lou knew that when men and women who came home from service didn't always get a happy ending. There were physical and mental barriers that were sometimes impossible to overcome. He had been lucky. Now, looking at the newest generation, he was sure of one thing. The camaraderie within the military didn't just span across countries, it had bridged generations as well. They were all brothers and sisters in arms. It was a special bond that he was forever grateful for. Somehow, he was going to pay this forward.